almost 5 decades, Syria has been ruled by a government operating without control or accountability. For almost 5 decades, the people of Syria have faced oppression, violence, fear, lies, corruption and poverty. For almost 5 decades, mothers, wives and daughters have shed tears for their missing sons, husbands and fathers. Political prisoners packed inside the darkness of prisons and detention centres, beaten and tortured, waiting for the return, alive or dead. Bashar Assad, including his father Hafez, has long presented themselves as suppressors of extremism in Syria. They said democracy would bring in fundamentalists that would inherently be opposed to modernity. Civil dialogue, international community legitimacy, perhaps. Because of this fear, the whole world was silent when Syria was passed from father to son. But how long does the world plan to stay silent? Since the 15th of March, the people of Syria have united to say enough is enough. Sparked by the torture of children, 15 boys, aged between 10 and 15, from Daraa, Syria, who were beaten and had their fingernails pulled out by men working for General Atef Najib, a cousin of President Assad. Mothers, wives, daughters have since then taken to the streets, calling for the release of their loved ones, their sons, their husbands and their fathers. Enough is what these people are saying. We want our basic human right and we want it now. We want our dignity and we want it now. We want our freedom and we want it now. But in response, the Assad government has responded in the massacre of its people, not limiting themselves to the young men, but to the women, children and elderly. When you think Assad's cronies couldn't stoop any lower, his men has also resorted to atrocious acts, such as the raping of helpless women and children. It seems for the political leaders of the West, the situation in Syria has been summed down to choosing between dictatorship and Islamic extremism. For a fact, the situation in Syria has nothing to do with religion. Something many people are calling to reaffirm their dignity and their human rights. Something many of us here in Australia take for granted. The international community has been deaf to the appeals of Assad's victims for the past 48 years. I stand here today to echo these calls again, to ensure these women, mothers, wives and daughters and sisters don't fall on deaf ears, to ensure the tens of thousands of lives lost now and the hundreds of thousands in the past 48 years have not been in vain. How much longer? What is happening in Syria is a genuine regime for struggle. Freedom from oppression, freedom from violence, and freedom from fear.
Heartfelt speech.